Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. In this video, we'll be talking about the sum and product of roots of a quadratic equation. So a standard quadratic equation looks something like this. It's in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. Here a, b and c are constant and x is our variable. So whenever we are solving a quadratic equation, what we are trying to do is we are trying to find the value of x. For example, x squared plus 5x plus 6 equals to 0 is a quadratic equation. So here in front of our x squared, when there is nothing, we have our 1 over here. And then we have our 5x and plus 6. So instead of a, we have 1. Instead of b, we have 5, and instead of c, we have 6. So our a, b, c's are constants, which means there's some random numbers. And x is our variable. So whenever we solve this quadratic equation, we get the values of x. So there are lots of methods to solve a quadratic equation. You can solve it by a factorization method, by completing square method, or by formula method. So if we try to solve this by factorization method, we have to factorize this entire thing first, right? And then we'll get the values of x. So we have a separate video for that on how to solve a quadratic equation by factorization method. You can check it out. There is a video link in the description below. So when you factorize this particular quadratic equation, what you'll get is x plus 2 and x plus 3 equals to 0. And when you do either or, you get two values of x. One of them is x equals to minus 2, and the other value is x equals to minus 3. Now, the reason I'm talking about all these things is because these two values of x that we got right here at the end, these are actually called the roots of the quadratic equation. So what we mean by roots of a quadratic equation is it's the two values of x that you get when you solve any quadratic equation. So here in this particular example, minus 2 and minus 3 are the roots of this particular quadratic equation. In this video, however, we are going to talk about the sum and the product of these roots of quadratic equation. For example, in this particular case, we have minus 2 and minus 3 as our roots of the quadratic equation. If we assume our minus 2 as alpha, let's say, and minus 3 as beta, then alpha and beta are two roots of our quadratic equation. Now, what we mean by the sum of the roots of the quadratic equation is the sum of alpha and beta, okay? So we are just adding the two roots of the quadratic equation, or two values of x. We'll get minus 2 plus minus 3, which would be minus 2 plus minus 3 is minus 5. And when we are talking about the product of the roots of the quadratic equation, we are talking about the product of the two values of x, which would be minus 2 times minus 3, which is equal to plus 6. But there is actually a different way to find the sum and the product of the roots of a quadratic equation. And that way is the sum of the roots of a quadratic equation is always equal to negative of coefficient of x divided by coefficient of x squared, and the product of the roots of the quadratic equation is equal to our last constant term, which is c, divided by our first constant term, which is a, or the coefficient of x squared. So in our particular example, we have our a as 1, right? Our b as 5, and our c as 6. Now let's check if this formula is correct or not. Okay, so equals to, our minus is there, our b is 5, right? So let's put that 5 over here, divided by our a is 1, right? So let's put that 1 over here as well. And minus 5 divided by 1 is minus 5. And see, the sum of the roots of our quadratic equation is minus 5, right? So in this way, we can actually directly get the sum of the roots of quadratic equation instead of solving this quadratic equation and adding the roots. Okay. Similarly, the product of the roots of the quadratic equation is c by a. So our c over here is 6, our a over here is 1. So it should be 6 divided by 1. which is equal to 6. And again, our answer matches with this above answer, right? Which we did by putting the actual values of two roots of the quadratic equation. So in this way, we have two formulas for the sum and the product of the roots of the quadratic equation. And that's what we are going to talk about in this video. How do we get this formula, right? Minus b by a and c by a, okay? Okay, so let's again start with our standard quadratic equation, right? So we have our ax square plus bx plus c equals to 0. Now there is a formula to find the roots of this standard quadratic equation, and that formula is x equals to minus b plus minus square root b square minus 4ac divided by 2a. Now I have made a separate video on how you can derive this particular formula, and the link for that video is also in our description box below. You can check that one out as well. So this is the formula that you can use to find two values of x, or two roots of x of any quadratic equation. Now, if you assume that the two values of x that you get by solving this quadratic equation is, let's say, alpha and beta, then you can get these two values by using this particular formula, right? This formula gives us the two values of x. So if you take the positive sign, it gives one value of x, and if you take the negative sign, it gives another value of x. So let's say the positive value of x is this one. So we have alpha as minus b plus square root b square minus 4ac divided by 2a. And let's say the value that you get by taking the negative symbol is beta, then we have minus b minus, okay, we are taking the negative symbol, right? So square root b square minus 4ac divided by 2a. So these are the two values of x that you'll get when you solve this particular quadratic equation. Or you could say these are the two roots of the quadratic equation. Now that we have the two values of x, or the roots of quadratic equation alpha and beta, we can easily find the sum of these roots and the product of these roots. So let's do that, okay? So let's first find the sum of these two roots, okay? So we have our alpha plus beta, right, equals to, so our alpha is minus b plus square root b square minus 4ac divided by 2a, plus our beta as minus b minus square root b square minus 4ac divided by 2a equals to, now they have the same common denominator 2a, right? So we don't need to take the LCM. We can just directly write it as 2a over here, the common denominator. And in the numerator, we have minus b plus square root b square minus 4ac plus, again, we have our minus b and then minus square root, let's extend that as well, b square minus 4ac. Now we can easily cancel these two square root of b square minus 4ac, because it's plus b square minus 4ac and minus b square minus 4ac, which is 0. And then we have our minus b over here and minus b over here, right? So minus b is equal to minus 2b divided by, we have our 2a over here. Again, we can cancel these two 2's, right? And then we get our answer, which is minus b divided by a, right? So the sum of the roots of the quadratic equation is minus b divided by a, or we could say minus coefficient of x divided by coefficient of x square, okay? So we have our quadratic equation as ax square plus bx plus c equals to 0. So the coefficient of x is b and the coefficient of x square is a. So you could say this as minus coefficient of x, which is b, right, divided by coefficient of x square, which is a. It's the same thing. And that's actually how the sum of the roots of quadratic equation is minus b divided by a. Okay. Now let's do the same for the product of the roots of the quadratic equation. So again, we have our alpha as minus b plus square root b square minus 4ac divided by 2a, right? And our beta as minus b minus square root b square minus 4ac divided by 2a. Now the product of these two roots should be c by a, right? So let's check that out. So we have minus b plus square root b square minus 4ac. So I'm going to do something extra here. I'm going to put a bracket in this minus b, okay? Now the reason I'm doing this is so that we can make the calculation a little bit easy, okay? We'll find out soon. So we have divided by 2a times, right? We have minus b minus square root b square minus 4ac divided by 2a. Again, I'm going to put a small bracket over our minus b here. Now I'm putting a curly bracket in this whole thing and another curly bracket over here as well. Now to multiply these two things, right, first we are going to look at the numerator, okay? So we have our here minus b plus square root b square minus 4ac, and then over here we have minus b minus square root b square minus 4ac. Now this is in the form of a plus b, right? And a, right? Our minus b is a minus b. Now whenever we have a plus b, a minus b, the formula of a plus b, a minus b is a square minus b square. So that's what we are going to do here by multiplying these two numerators. And we get our a square is minus b whole square minus our b square is square root b square minus 4ac whole square, okay, divided by, in case of our denominators, it's pretty simple, okay, it's 2a times 2a, which is 4a square, equals to, so minus b whole square is plus b square minus, we can cut this square root and square, and then we get b square minus 4ac over here, bracket close, divided by our 4a square is still there, okay, equals to, now let's open up that bracket. So we have b square minus b square, right, minus minus becomes plus 4ac divided by, we have our 4a square over here. Now again we can cut plus b square and minus b square, and we get 4ac divided by 4a square. So e square can be written as e times a, right? And again we can cut this 4 and 4 and a, and we get our answer as c by a. And that's what we assumed initially, right? The product of the roots of a quadratic equation is c divided by a. And then that's how these formulas were formed. So there is a logic behind this formula, okay? It's not just like, oh, the sum of the roots of the quadratic equation is minus b by a and the product is c by a. It's not like that, okay? So we can actually logically find that the sum of the roots of the quadratic equation is minus b by a and the product is c by a. So I hope this video was helpful to you in understanding why the sum of the roots of a quadratic equation is minus b by a and the product of the roots of quadratic equation is c by a. So if you liked it, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for future maths videos. Thank you.